Birds, people, and the dogs that bring them together. This is episode number 38. My name is Bill, and you're tied to the Woe Post. If there's one thing that you should take away from this episode, it's that we all need to be safe when we're out hunting. I just spent the better part of a week hunting some extremely remote areas of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan for ruffed grouse and woodcock, and I ran into what my guest, Jake Perry, calls the Holy Trinity of the Upper Peninsula all in one day. Porcupines, moose, and wolves. You'll hear about all three of those in the show. But more importantly, our modern mapping software and apps allow us to find grouse covers further out than we'd normally find on our own, and they may give us the false confidence to go hunt them alone. But we shouldn't. Always hunt with a buddy. This is something that I violated this trip, and it almost bit me a few times. Now, I'm not new to the woods. I spent 25 years in the active Army infantry. I'm a graduate of the Army Ranger School, the Survive, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape course, or SEER-C, 2 military sniper courses, and I have 8 combat deployments. I'm a planner, and 2 things that the military taught me are to always have a means to communicate, navigate, signal, and sustain, and to always leave a 5-point contingency plan whenever you go somewhere you may find trouble. Jake and I will talk about this a bit over the next hour, as well as where we're finding the grouse, or really how we're finding the grouse. I'm not going to tell you where to find them. Back here at the Gallant Gun Dogs kennel, we're down to just 3 bird dogs. Jax, the male small Munsterlander that I was starting for a Ravar kennel, went to his new home after he demonstrated what an absolutely great cover dog he is over the trip. Undoubtedly the best dog in my kennel, at least for that hunt. And if you follow the Woe Post on Facebook or Instagram, you know what an emotional experience that was for me. I bonded with Jax a lot more than I planned to. He's a special young dog who's going to make a Michigan couple very happy, and he's going to find a whole bunch of ruffed grouse in his life. I want to thank Jake for inviting me up to stay with his family in the Upper Peninsula, and I also want to thank my Patreon patrons who voluntarily support the podcast by pledging $3 per month. Patrons, be on the lookout for my upcoming blog about how to plan for contingencies when hunting in remote areas. Now we're going to pick up with Jake and me in his kitchen, rehashing our trip. All right, Jake Perry wrapping up 5 days of hunting ruffed grouse up in the Upper Peninsula. What are you thinking? You're looking a little tired, bro.
Dude, I think we're both tired right now.
Yeah, I'm a little tired, and we've been sleeping in, but I think, today is the first day that I'm very tired after hunting. But the big difference between today and the other 4 days is the amount of wind.
Oh man, it was just ripping out there today.
It was, and it wore me out. My face feels windburned, even though I was in the woods, and my lips feel sunburned, which is just absolutely strange. And I feel like it kind of messed with the birds a little bit today too.
They were very spooky today, man. Super, super spooky.
It didn't have any close bird contact at all today. At one point, that was probably a lucky point more than anything else, and no shot after the point. We were talking about the spruce tree that just got right in the way and said, "Nope, you don't get to shoot at this bird."
It's tough to be a one-man army sometimes. Hey,
it's spooky out there to be one man too. In some of these covers are pretty remote.
Oh, dude, I'm telling you, man, the Upper Peninsula. I mean, we talked about it multiple times, and I showed you when you got up here. It's absolutely insane the amount of public land that's up here. You can go as far as you want,
And you don't have to go far to get remote.
Oh no, man! You go 5 minutes off the blacktop, and you might get turned around, and and the local wildlife and whether that be animals or people, man, it can get a little interesting sometimes.
It seems like wolves were a common theme this time.
Yeah, packs. I mean, I don't know, man. The moose are rutting right now, so they're chasing everything everywhere, and saw a lot of, me and you both, we saw a lot of wolf activity, and I mean, we're going to get to it later, but yeah, so the wolves were really moving, covering a lot of ground. And I mean, we were going to places where packs historically weren't, and we were still seeing wolf signs. So
that one cover that I sent you the pin for today, that one that I said was really nice, had a good amount of wolf sign in it.
I mean, you think about that place we found, that grouse Shangri-La, when what was it, the first night you were here? We had grouse running right across the road in front of us everywhere, and when we came back to hunt it the next day, I mean, those wolves had come through and marked everything up, and droppings and everything, man. I mean, those wolves were there 3-4 hours before us. So
the droppings they weren't steamy, but
they were wet.
They were fresh. But that's, I think it's just part of being up here, right? If you want to be in good grouse country, you're going to be with other animals.
Yeah. I mean, grouse live in young forests, and, young forests have lots of critters. Lots of critters means lots of predators. So, I mean, it's just a battle you're always going to fight, right?
I've got a friend who's coming up this weekend, not too far from here. And we have been in contact over the last 5 days that I've been here, and I've been telling him about all the wolf sign, and he's really sweating it. So he's bringing some wolf deterrent as well.
He's going to be strapped to the teeth.
Fortunately, Michigan laws allow you to protect yourself in certain situations. And, for those of us that aren't from here, I think it's wise to protect yourself if you can.
Yeah. I mean, you should take and definitely look and see what your regulations are and how they take and impact the state, like you did your research before you came up. But, I mean, even just with porcupines or, another critter just like that, I mean, it doesn't have to be a wolf or anything like that, but, you definitely should be prepared to defend yourself or your dogs at any point, So I definitely would recommend, if you're coming up here, to carry.
Yep. And we had did you call it the Upper Peninsula Slam, or did you call it the Upper Peninsula Trifecta?
What, that you had the other day?
Yeah.
Oh, was it yesterday?
It was yesterday, yeah.
Oh, dude, it was the Holy Trinity is what I was calling it. The Holy Trinity of encounters that could go wrong, right?
Yep. So in one day, it was a wolf, a bull moose, and a porcupine. And thankfully, it wasn't my dogs with the porcupine, but it's still a dog with porcupines.
Yeah, I mean, very rarely do you get a 11:45 at night, SOS call. And it's the local neighborhood labradoodle that's got 30-something quills in its mouth.
And of all the dogs, too, you'd think that, like, the DK over here would end up with the quills, but a labradoodle just probably walking around the yard got into a porcupine.
Yeah, I don't understand that, right? Like, I mean, you met Bear. So, like, Bear, he's the stereotypical dog you think would eat a porcupine, You'd think he would just eat a porcupine. And it was weird to take and get that phone call and have a labradoodle with 30-plus quills in its face. So
yeah, it was 39, right?
Yeah, 39, 38. I can't remember.
Right.
You were the one that counted them.
I don't remember. There's a video. We can count them again in the video if we want to. But the dog's okay. We were able to, get the dog squared away pretty easily. It really wasn't that bad.
No, I mean, they took it to the vet today, and they said that, hey, who pulled the quills? And they said they did a fantastic job. So apparently we did a good job, right? So
right on. Interesting thing about porcupines, I was thinking a lot about it today, and I think it's hard for some people that are pet owners to remove themselves from the situation. And we all know as trainers that dogs can read and play off of our emotions and off of our energy that we're kind of just showing to the world. And I think if you're stressed out because your dog is full of quills, then your dog is going to end up getting more stressed out. So I think it's kind of hard. And those two I think they were doing a very good job of helping us hold the dog and everything. But I think that if it was maybe two other people that weren't directly related to that dog, then the dog would have ultimately been more calm.
I think you're correct. I think, it was one of those situations where obviously it's their pet and they're concerned, and they were playing, the dog could tell that they were stressed out, right? And I mean, once me and you got her held down and were able to help control her a little bit, she let us pull him right out. So, but she was definitely gnashing and thrashing and stuff before we got there. So
a little bit, yeah. She was such a sweet dog, and it was, I mean, I just put my thumbs right in the back of her mouth, and she fought it for a few seconds, and once she realized that it wasn't going to work, then she stayed right there, and we got, I think, all but 2 or 3 in that one session. And then we gave her a break and went in for the last few. Right?
Yeah, and it was just a couple broken off ones from when they tried to do it themselves, and it was quick and it was done with. So
yeah, and then dog went to the vet today, right?
Yeah, dog went to the vet, and vet literally said like, who pulled the quills? They did a fantastic job. So I mean, for me and you being after putting in 20 something miles and all that stuff all day, and then be able to have the mental capacity to do something like that, it was pretty good. So.
Are you going to send them a bill from Superior Upland?
I thought about it, but I think I'm so thankful for them for letting us use Pinecrest as an avenue for grouse camp and hunting grouse and stuff. So I think I'll just throw it on the tab.
There you go. Yeah. So since you brought up Pinecrest, let's just go ahead and talk about it real quick. So what is it?
So Pinecrest is a event and lodging center. It's been around since the early 1900s. I mean, it's got ties to the mob. It's just you've been there. It's a cool old log cabin style event center, and it's situated on its own peninsula. It's 120 acres on its own peninsula between the Michigamme River and then June Cobb Lake. It's just a cool setting on a big bluff that overlooks the lake. And so kind of, how things went was I coincidentally sold a bag of Inukshuk to them and got linked up to them that way. And we started talking, and they said, I said, with you guys being young business owners, because they're both young, I said, what's the month that you struggle the most? And they said October. And I went, oh my gosh. I was like, do you guys realize that you sit in the mecca of, wild bird hunting for ruffed grouse? And they said, we've always tried to tap into it, but we didn't know how to. And I said, man, do I have a pitch for you? So that's how things got kind of started with Pinecrest, and we sat down and talked things out, and it's set up for it, man. I mean, the cabins are old and antique, but they have all the creature comforts of home. I mean, you've got a shower, you've got Wi-Fi, the whole 9 yards, but it's just the ambiance that they have set up there, it just matches up perfectly with going out and pursuing public land birds. So
it's such a nice place, and it's nice and quiet out there at night. If you want to sleep in the morning, because honestly, I don't feel like you need to get up at the crack of dawn to get out and hunt grouse, and you're probably going to find most of them roosted early in the morning anyway. So you can get out and cast a line, right? Catch a few fish in the morning, and then get out in that kind of mid-morning out into your covers. It's a pretty popular destination for weddings and things of that nature.
Correct.
And then not a lot of weddings, I think, happen in a venue like that during grouse season in the UP.
No, not during grouse season in the UP. I mean, you'll get your leaf chasers is what we call them up here, but people come up to see the fall colors. But as far as weddings go, it's really hard to book during that time of the year. And like you said, it's just it's a sportsman's paradise there, man. I mean, you can go out and catch crappies in the lake and walleyes and stuff if you don't feel like grouse hunting. And, the other thing too is like you said, you don't have to get up early to go grouse hunting. I mean, we got up a little bit. We thought that we got out there at the right time, and we still were a half hour early on that one cover that we went into, the one that Serena made us leave. But
we left birds to find birds.
Oh man, we broke Larry Perry's cardinal rule: you don't leave birds to find birds. Yeah.
Oh, that's all right. I went back there and found birds.
Yeah, I mean, if you walk into a cover and 10 grouse go up in the first 10 minutes, I mean, that's a pretty special place. So
that's a really nice place. I'm saving that in my Onyx, by the way.
You know what? I may have to fight you to take it and delete it later, but it's CFR land. You can have it.
There you go. So Pinecrest is where you're putting up your clients, right?
Correct. Yeah. So this year, we've transitioned over any client that would have been at our old lodging site to Pinecrest this year, kind of running things as a test run for next year when we go all inclusive. So smaller batches of people right now, 2-3 clients. I have one group of 4 coming in later this month, but it's been really good so far. So we're halfway through with our first set of clients right now. A couple younger guys. They've been having a lot of fun, and really just getting those things ironed out before next year, where we just take off full bore, where we've got the full guide staff, the whole 9 yards. So
now, when we were talking earlier, we were kind of talking about the clients and the clients' dogs, and obviously, most client dogs that come in here are not going to have the experience, especially in the grouse woods, that your dogs have. So how do you balance that, kind of that juggling act of giving them what they really want, which is to run their dogs in the grouse woods and have their dogs get some experience, but then make sure that they leave as often as possible, as much as possible, with birds in the bag?
I think it's tough, right? So like, kind of how I cut my teeth was being the guy who gets young bird dogs, bird contacts. I mean, I'm one of the only guys really in the area that encourages you to come up and run your own dogs, right? We run the summer conditioning program. And then my background as a teacher, I mean, I love to teach things, right? So like, when people come out and they've got their dogs, some guides are going to get mad when a client brings a dog and he bumps 15 birds right away, right? Me, I look at that as like, hey, we're teaching your dog, getting your dog prepared. I mean, point in case, this dog that just came up, right? Brittany, really, really athletic Brittany, probably the biggest, most muscled up Brittany I've ever seen. Just a big muscled up dog.
Yeah, it's like a short hair version of a Brittany.
Dude, he's huge. And he's gorgeous in his own right. But I mean, he's big, muscled up, and he's just full of vinegar, right? So he came out the first day and he didn't know that zone on the birds that well, but we gave him those contacts. And while it was, some people would say it was frustrating, I mean, the client was happy. His dog got 20 plus contacts, right? The next day we come out, boom, he takes and pins 2 grouse. You know what I'm saying? So you got to temper your expectations on that. And then talking about how you take and leave with birds in the bag, right? I think the biggest thing is making sure your dogs are as well trained as possible, so that when you do put them on the ground, there are results, and then the other part of it is you get them used to the cover, you talk them through things. So then when your dog is on the ground, they know how to process and what to expect with a bird and how to work a wild bird. So,
yeah. And I think another really important thing is just conditioning. Your dog has to be in shape to get through these covers. These dogs they're going over, under, and through everything in the woods, and it's thick, and they're turning hard, and all these all these things. And then sometimes they've got to be able to go fast when they need to go fast, and then they've got to be able to go slow. And then the other thing is you find yourself not miles from the truck necessarily, like you might out in the Great Plains somewhere, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to be 30 minutes or an hour from the truck, and the dog has to be able to make it back, unless you want to heel your dog all the way back and then you're not hunting anymore.
Yeah.
So that I think can be a challenge. And I mean, fortunately, I think, the 2 clients that you have in town right now have both of their dogs are very fit.
Yeah, they did a great job. I mean, you talk to clients beforehand, you set the expectations, right? You tell them you could bring your own dogs, but make sure they're in shape, make sure you got everything to support them, right? And I mean, those dogs showed up, and I mean, they are in shape. That's without a question. Those dogs are in shape. So
it's a Brittany that looks like a short hair and a lab that looks like a Rottweiler.
Yeah. I mean, dude, they're just muscled up and they look good. They're in their primes, right? And they've been able to run all day. They've been able to have water breaks, and they've been able to run and then rotate them out with my dogs. They've done a good job. I mean, I don't have really a whole lot of bad things to say. I mean, it's been a lot of education for the one dog because he is so big and he's so bold, but he's really responded well. And I mean, his owner should just be ecstatic right now. So
good. And the other thing, kind of like what we talked about earlier, is that all of the dogs have been struggling in some capacity. There's only been 3 dogs that have really been rock stars out of I think between my 4, your
6
or 16 or 60, 66 or whatever.
Island of Misfit Toys, man.
And then the client's 2 dogs. I mean, so that's 12 dogs right there. Yeah. And out of those 12, there really have been only 3 that have been consistent rock stars the whole time.
And 2 of them have been puppies, man.
Right.
It's the 2 puppies that are really stealing the show.
So you've got, what, 8-month-old Gordy, the Gordon setter, right, out of Stony Brook Lines, right?
Well, from Debbie Peterson. Yeah. Yeah, he's been just a rock. He's really grown up this week, man. He's been a rock star. It's just been seeing that light switch turn on, man. And then you've got Jax, right? I mean,
so Jax at 5 months old, his light switch was over a woodcock that he shared the point with Tibby, who's the other consistent rock star, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, he's just been point. I mean, I wish I could shoot better, and I wish we had bigger windows to shoot in to really help him understand, because I think had I actually been able to connect with a grouse over him, he'd be a fail safe grouse dog.
Yeah.
Right now.
I mean, when he came in and, when Tibby went on point by that lake, right? We were at that remote lake and Tibby went on point, and I thought for sure it was a grouse, right? Because not your typical woodcock cover, right? And when he came in, and then we realized, oh man, they're both on point, right? And it was a Munsterlander point, it was an SM point, right? 2 Munsterlanders on point, and then my gun was broken. So I was just walking with you guys, right? So I was having technical difficulties with my gun. So I was just walking with you guys. And I mean, you got to harvest Jax's first wild bird, and it was a point in honor. He was leading the point, and, Tibby was honoring. And man, that was just a cool experience.
Yep. Pretty special moment. And Jax has proven that at all of 5 months old that he's the best dog in my kennel by a lot, because the other 3 dogs, I don't think, pointed anything over the past 5 days.
Yeah, I think our dogs that are more tracker style dogs, I think that they've really struggled. I think because Bear, he's a DK, he's more of a trailer, more of a tracker, and he really struggled. The one day. Today he was great, but we had wind today, right?
Yeah.
So he was able to track today. I think, and you were saying that Skeet's a big tracking style dog, right? She's a dog that's going to go find a bird, right? And Gordy and Jax and Tibby are dogs that really take in, they warm scent birds very well. And I think that's why they had the success they did. They were able to, when they got that little hint of scent, man, they were on it, because that set of scenario and the heat and everything that we had, I think it played into their skill set better than the other dogs in the kennel.
Yeah, absolutely. And 99% sure we've got a buyer for Jax, and should be meeting him tomorrow. And I'm about to sell the best dog in my kennel. It seems like just a not really good idea, especially at the beginning of hunting season. And he's turned out to be like my buddy too, so it's really hitting me right in the feels right now.
I keep telling you, I know I'm not helping, but I keep telling you, I'm like, dude, you're going to regret if you get rid of that dog, just because he's been a rock star up here, right? So
I did, in the last cover, decide that I wasn't going to, video anything. I took a lot of pictures because I wanted some pictures to remember him by, but I put away the Onyx. I wasn't thinking about the Instagram post or the Facebook post or anything like that. And I said, you know what? I don't even care if we get a bird. I'm just going to walk with you in the woods and let you do your thing.
Yeah.
And let's just enjoy this moment. And it was pretty awesome. And, he had a whole lot of fun. He's really building his confidence. And there were a few points that I think I forgot to tell you. I took the bells off today because I felt like the bells early on, I felt like the bells may have been pushing birds early.
Yep.
Because we had several birds flush at 80, 90 yards before the dogs were scenting them. So I took the bells off, still had the GPS collar, so it's not like we didn't have any mitigation or anything like that. But Jax is coming into his own, and he's ranging 80, 90, 100 yards out.
Wow.
When, and I'm out there by myself, just me and Jax. No other hunter, no other dog, and no bell. So I did spend some time looking down at the GPS to make sure I knew where Jax was. And frankly, when he got more than probably 50 or 60 yards away, I was just calling him back. So I think he's a little too young to be out in this area that far.
Yeah, I mean, you saw, you can have stuff run up on you within, you can have stuff run up on you that you wouldn't even expect and not even know it's there until it's on top of you. So
yeah, and that was yesterday's wolf encounter, and frankly, I was walking through an aspen cover, and off to my left, it kind of opened up a little bit, and I saw that it was an older raspberry patch, and obviously there's no more raspberries left in it. But just being a raspberry patch, I kind of wanted to stay away from it. The bushes were about head high, or maybe even a little taller in some areas, so I didn't want to go through there. I had one dog out, and it was Covey, so she's not even 5 months old yet.
Yeah.
So, and honestly, she wouldn't have been able to navigate through that stuff anyway. She's just too small.
Well, and she's young and she's just learning, so.
Sure. So I skirted around that berry patch thinking, I don't want to be around bears right now. And this dog's not going to be able to work in there anyway. And all of a sudden, I heard something running towards me, and all these bushes started shaking, and the shaking bushes got closer and closer, very, very fast. And I immediately thought bear, of course, because that's what it should have been.
Yeah, berry patch, right?
Yep.
Big giant, like the way you described it to me, right? How everything was shaking and moving. I mean, those are head high bushes that they're running through. So
right. And what actually broke through the bushes as I'm screaming, "No bear, no bear, no bear," and pulling out my bear deterrent at the time, which it was wolf deterrent, and then it was bear deterrent in the moment. And then a wolf actually broke the cover, and it turned back into wolf deterrent again, magically in my hands, right? And I think the wolf was as surprised to see a human as I was to see a wolf and not a bear.
Yeah, and I mean that's such a rare encounter to have one coming that close, especially with the bird hunter. I mean, I've had a couple where they've cut in on one of my dogs, right, and you can see the tracks where they cut in. But I mean, that's just absolutely like some super cool, but very terrifying, right? I can't even imagine. You said, I mean, I don't know. You said it was over 90 pounds, right? I mean,
it had to be. It looked like it was. Well, moose is 24 inches at the shoulder. This was a lot bigger than moose, and moose is about 65 pounds. But moose is a pretty slender, long-legged dog, and this was not a slender dog.
No, I mean, I've seen them over 100 pounds up here and see them on trail cam and stuff like that. And I mean, just how you said it just looked like a bear coming through the woods. I mean, I can't even imagine what's going through your head. I mean, the first thing when I got back last night, you were like, "Oh my God, I had a wolf encounter," right? And I was like, "What?" And then you were like, "Yeah." And then not that long later, I saw a bull moose and had a bull moose scare me. And I was like, "Dude, you had a day that most of us never have up here, right?"
Well, I'm glad I didn't repeat that day today. I'm glad that as soon as that wolf saw me, it turned and ran away as fast as it came in.
Yeah.
So, and then I got Covey healed very closely, and we walked a ways out. I mean, that wolf covered way more ground getting away from us. But, thinking about it now, earlier, and I don't remember how much earlier. So we had in the back of my truck, I had Annie, the Bronco in your kennel, and Jax, and they were both kenneled in the back of my truck, and they both started barking really loud, which was not normal. Like Jax will whine a little bit when he knows we're leaving the truck. Yeah. Annie did the same thing. She whined for a little bit when we were leaving the truck, but they stopped after a minute or two or something like that. But they both started barking pretty randomly when, Covey and I were probably, 150 yards from the truck or so.
Yeah.
And I didn't think much of it at the time. I just kind of thought, oh, here they go again. But they barked for, a minute or so, and then they stopped. And it was within 15 or 20 minutes of that happening, I think, when I had the wolf encounter. So I do wonder if they sensed or knew or smelled or saw or heard that wolf, long before I did.
It wouldn't surprise me if he came in and cut in and checked out what was going on in the truck. And I mean, Bill, me and you talked, like, we get as remote as possible, right? So, like, you were extremely remote.
Oh, absolutely.
And that was the thing, too, is like I told you, I was like, hey, like, get off the roads, get extremely remote. And I mean, when you get into those areas, I mean, he probably heard your truck coming in and he was like, what's going on here? You know what I'm saying? And so he probably came and checked out the truck first and then probably walked right in on where you guys walked in at. And then that's when you had the encounter that you had. Hey, he's probably just checking you guys out and seeing what's going on in his neck of the neighborhood. So,
right. And I'm glad it worked out the way that it did. It was exciting to see a wolf now, not in the moment.
No.
It wasn't exciting. Always thankful to have baby wipes on hand.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. I mean, being an upland hunter, you usually do have baby wipes on hand. But I mean, something that I think, you should probably address too is in that moment, how did you decide the restraint to have, with your wolf deterrent? I mean, a lot of people probably wouldn't have been able to respond to that the way that you did. What kind of was going through your head?
Because the wolf stopped, I didn't feel like I was directly threatened anymore.
Okay.
And I was in a position where if the wolf picked back up, I could have acted immediately.
Yeah.
So I wasn't, I'm not going to say I wasn't scared. I was scared. I was absolutely scared. But I didn't feel like my life or my dog's life were directly in danger.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was in control of the situation at that point.
Yeah.
So, I think if the wolf had come any closer, I certainly would have acted.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see how you couldn't, man. I mean, that's a situation that's just our worst nightmare. I know the bear houndsmen have been dealing with it up here for quite some time now, and it hasn't really been impacting bird hunters at all. But I couldn't. I don't know if you would have put me into the same position that you would have been in. I don't know if I would have responded the same way. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Maybe that's part of your training that you've had to deal with high stress, situations, that sort of stuff. But I kudos to you, man, because I don't know if I could have responded with the same restraint that you did. I mean, that's, you take different people and put them in different situations, and I love them. I respect them. I think they're an absolutely amazing animal, an amazing resource for people to have. But, that's terrifying to have them that close to a little 20-pound puppy and, the future of your kennel. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff going through your head, right?
Sure. And, I think the wolf was probably maybe 70 feet or so away from me, but Covey was kind of diagonal to the right in front of me, and not directly in between me and the wolf, but half the distance between me and the wolf. And as fast as that wolf came in, I mean, it was very fast, which is inconsistent with, from what I understand, a lot of people's wolf encounters where the wolf may kind of creep in and they'll kind of see it maybe peek in or kind of follow for a little bit or maybe pass in front. But this was extremely fast.
I mean, I have a lot of experience. I used to have a beagle and run hounds, right? And what we always describe what they do with the hounds, right? So when people are walking and kind of how you said the slinking around, checking out sort of stuff, the thing that we have recognized is that, especially with the hounds, they blitz attack is what they do. So they come in really fast, really hard, and that's when they hit your dog, and it's over within 40 seconds, right? This kind of seems like maybe it was like one of those things where it came in, blitzed to see what was going on, and then pulled right out when it saw you. But I know that a lot of the houndsmen, especially down by, Menominee and the Bark River area and all that stuff, those wolves down there are known for coming in and just blitzing dogs and then getting right out of town. So,
well, I'm glad that didn't happen.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's terrifying, man. But I mean, it's where we live in, right? I mean, the DNR says, that we have X amount of wolves in the Upper Peninsula, but I mean, it's so, I mean, you've seen how thick our cover is and how much public land we have. I mean, it's got to be the hardest job in the world to try and population estimate them or the moose, man, because I mean, there's some stuff you can't even walk through, let alone try and survey for actual animal wildlife populations. So, I mean, me and you over the course of 5 days, we went to 6 different counties, right? Mm-hmm. Between the two of us, we found wolf sign on the ground in every single county we went to.
I think I found wolf sign on the ground in almost half of the covers that I was in.
Yeah. I mean,
there were a few covers where there was enough that I said, all right, I'm leaving. I'm not going to hang out in here. And then there was the one today that I told you that was really nice. There was wolf droppings in that cover, but it was old and dry, and I didn't see any prints around it or anything like that. So I kept hunting in that spot.
Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of the thing too, is you gotta, show restraint. Like the one day where me and you, when we found that, that grouse honey hole, right, and we came back and there was fresh. I mean, just so fresh, right?
Yes.
And me and you immediately, we said, hey, we don't care how nice this is. We're getting out of here, right?
Time to go.
Even though we drove an hour to get there, we said, hey, we got to get out of here. And I think anybody coming up here, I think that's what they have to, remind themselves of, is that you are not the king of the food chain up here, right? Your dog is not the king of the food chain up here. No. I don't care if you have a draught and you think that he's going to retrieve a wolf to hand. It's not going to happen, right? So, when you come up here and you see that stuff, right, and you walk into a cover and you immediately, see that there's fresh wolf sign, just do him the favor of him being the apex predator, of him being the king of his domain, and just pull out and go find somewhere else to hunt. He's hunting too, right? If you come in there and hunt, you're going to have a problem eventually, right? So just, if you see it, just pull out, go down the road, pull up Onyx, try and find something else, and just really, really pay attention when you're in there, right? Because it can change within 30 seconds.
And you'll find another cover with plenty of grouse in it and no other hunters.
Oh, man, if there's one thing that me and you found was grouse, dude. It just was... Numbers were not a problem when we were hunting, and hunting pressure was not a problem either, right? If you go remote, right? I mean, if you're willing to go remote, and just drive the extra 15 minutes up here, man, and just find something that you think that nobody would want to go to, odds are nobody's going to go to it, and you're going to find birds.
Sure.
So. I mean, it was so cool to see, me and you talking through cover those first couple days, and then you come back last night and you're like, I moved 25 plus birds, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I was like, dude, that's awesome, right? So in 2 days, you were able to take and go from and apply that knowledge and go out on your own with the tools you had and be successful, right?
Yeah. So I think, the first day hunting with you, we pushed 30 something birds.
Yeah, it was great. Day. It was all right. It was all right, right? Cover was horrible.
Then the leaves are still up. So.
No, I'm joking, right? Because we kept saying, oh, this looks terrible.
Yeah. The first day by myself, I think I don't remember, it was at the day. So my numbers of hunting by myself were 19, 27, and then today I kind of lost track, but it was somewhere in the mid 20s.
Yeah.
So. And that is not a bad day.
No. I mean, that's, some people would, especially people that are those Appalachian grouse hunters. I mean, that just sounds absolutely astronomical to them, right?
I spent almost a week hunting grouse in Pennsylvania last season, and we didn't push 19 grouse in the whole week.
That's insane. So, I mean, if I didn't push 19 grouse in a day, I'd be apologizing to a client.
Now, we probably pulled 19,000 ticks off of our dogs.
Oh, dude, ticks are horrible up here right now, man.
They are. I haven't seen too many on my dogs, but I'm also doing double prophylaxis on that too. So oral, and I'll do the pyrethrum spray. I
really wish I would have took you up on that pyrethrum, because I think I pulled like 15 of them off of Gordy yesterday.
Oh, man. I can leave the bottle up here with you. I've got... plenty.
Yeah, no, I'm going to take and order some, but I mean, just to see the difference that made between your dogs and my dogs, right? They weren't embedded, but I mean, I literally pulled 15 ticks off Gordy, and we ran him in the same covers that we ran your dogs. And it was like, holy cow, look at the difference. You know what I'm saying? So you're definitely onto something with the tick prevention.
This stuff works. And actually, while you were talking before, I pulled a tick off myself. It was just crawling, and I killed it, and it's sitting here on your table. I'll get rid of it later.
Fantastic. We'll send them to Valhalla.
Yeah, right. So, wolf story complete, but just a few hours after that, in a totally different cover, another really good cover. And actually towards the end of the cover, I was actually on the trail walking back to my truck, waiting for that truck bird, which, by the way, there was a truck bird.
I
at that
told you,
cover.
man, 70% of the time there's a truck bird every time, man.
I didn't get a shot off, though. But on the way to the truck, like I said, walking on the trail and really focused on the immediate cover on the sides of the trail, because that's probably where you see almost all, not all of your birds, but a lot of your birds, right?
They do like hugging right up off.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to get off the trails all the time. I want to walk in the covers. I do find more birds along the trail.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, it's one of those things when you're on those remote 2-tracks and stuff, and they got the sand and the gravel, and they've got that ability to pop out, and there might be some clover growing there, or, something they can pick at. I think that ability for them to pop in and out, I think they really like that. And I think it also gives them a chance if they do have a predator come up from behind them, they do have that, that kick start to where they can kick out into an open area and get speed really quick and duck into some more cover. So
sure, they got the easy out.
100%. I mean, that's the thing that we learned. They love kicking out of cover, right?
Oh, yeah. So walking down that trail, and I hear something big jump up next to me. I say next to me, maybe 50 yards off the trail into the woods. And what I didn't realize was that there was a bull moose sleeping right there. And I walked by and I surprised him and he surprised me. And he jumped up and started running. And at the moment, I was 100% certain that he was running right at me. I made some weird sound that I don't think I could replicate. And the moose actually ran behind me to get away, because that was really the only direction that he could go. He was kind of up against a pretty steep hill.
Yeah.
And that was his easiest egress, was to get behind me. And, he passed behind me maybe 20 plus yards behind me. But in that first moment, those first few steps, I thought to myself, I'm about to get trampled by a moose.
Yeah. I mean, don't more people get killed by them every year than bears, right?
I've heard that before. I don't hear about individual moose attacks, I guess, but you do hear that statistic.
Yeah. Right? I mean, I love living up here with them because you can see them on the sides of the roads and they're swimming in, the little swamps and stuff like that. But one of the most terrifying things to me is when you walk into an area and you see mama's tracks and you see baby's tracks, right? That's when I know that, because, we run the summer conditioning, right? And a lot of the areas that we run for the dogs, we run the summer conditioning in, they cohabitate with moose, right? Well, you're in a completely different type of scenario with that moose that you saw, right? It's not mama and a baby.
Right.
The rut is on right now.
It's a rutting bull, right?
The rut is on right now, right? So I think it probably scared you a little bit too when he took up and started running off and took half the cover with him too, because they can, they can just run it over, right?
Yeah.
And it's insane when you see that. I mean, me and you walking through, and it's like Vietnam and we can barely get through. It's like a jungle, right? And you just see a big creature like that and they can just bulldoze it, right?
Doesn't stop them.
No, it's insane.
He kind of picks up his nose a little bit, and I think that just makes the bottom of his antlers a little bit more streamlined, right?
Yeah.
And they just push through, and it either gets pushed out of the way, or it breaks, or it goes with him.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
I remember when we were walking that lake on the first day that me and you, or second day that me and you were hunting together, right? And you go, man, what do you think made this path? And you were being sarcastic, right? But we could totally tell that a moose had plowed through there, right?
Oh yeah.
And it's interesting to see, well, I guess we can kind of touch on it both now, right? Two of the more rare species in the Upper Peninsula, right? In the past, the wolves and the moose. I mean, multiple interactions with them and seeing their sign and the whole 9 yards, and maybe time for a reevaluation, man. I mean, if we're able to just go in and see them,
It's my unqualified opinion that they're not that uncommon.
Yeah. I mean, we, like you said, 6 different counties,
Sure.
6 different counties and sign and seeing them. And I mean, and you came up from Indiana and you got some onyx and you're just running into them. Right? So
I'm going to cancel my onyx subscription. It's probably safer for me.
They need to, instead of having young aspen forests, they need to have moose hazard area now. That's what they need to have.
That's the overlay that we need. But I guess, you do bring up a good point. We didn't talk about this before, but onyx makes it so easy for a singleton inexperienced hunter to really get in over their head. And a lot of the places that I was going to, and I'm not inexperienced in the woods. And I have a plan. I can always communicate, navigate, signal, and sustain. Well, I couldn't always communicate today, to be fair. And that's kind of where I'm going with this. Is it is easy to get in a location where it's easy to get lost, where you don't have cell service, and where something could happen to you. And if you're alone and you're in that situation, it's a very complicated problem to navigate.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great resource, right? But like you said, you can get yourself in some sketchy situations really quick with it. I mean, a lot of the Upper Peninsula is your thing's going to say no cell service. It is what it is, right? And unless you have those those maps downloaded, or you have InReach, or you have any of that stuff, right? I mean, it can get really dangerous really fast. I mean, you're one step away from having a broken ankle, and you're in the middle of a 170,000 acre swath, and no one's ever going to know you're there.
Sure. And you might be, an hour and a half away from your truck if you have 2 good feet.
And 2 hours away from a hospital.
Yeah.
So you're talking, you better be ready for a 4-hour, fight or flight kind of thing. And I mean, when you're dealing with their dogs or you or anything like that, I mean, that's stuff you got to think about. I mean, well, Onyx is a great tool, right? Yes. I couldn't run my business without Onyx, right? Because it gives me that ability to look at cover types and see what the LiDAR is saying and all that stuff, and identify these remote water sources and all this stuff that, would be good grouse habitat. I mean, I've gotten into some spots before because of Onyx where I've had to call people to come pick me up because I've trashed a vehicle, or I've gotten myself hurt, or, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I remember one time I got myself stuck in the middle of a snowstorm because I thought for certain that I was going to take and be able to get back to this spot, and I wasn't able to get back there. And I had to leave my truck there for almost 3 weeks one time. Wow. And that was because of Onyx, right? That was totally Onyx. I'm just going to right now, don't sue me, please. But I took in, I wanted to go check out this grouse cover, and we got a random weird snowstorm in, and I got buried, dude. My truck was buried out there for a couple weeks. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So I guess, I think my point with that is we have tools that allow us to get into deeper, darker places, but we still need to make sure that our contingency plan is adaptable so that it still supports us in those deeper, darker places. And
yeah. And I think me and you talked about this too, is that you should not come up here and hunt by yourself.
No, I should not have hunted by myself, to be honest with you.
No, I mean, me and you talked about that. I mean, having that contingency plan and stuff. But I mean, I call this place Baby Alaska, right? It is a destination for coming up and bird hunting, right? And running your bird dogs in the whole 9 yards. But it's a destination for a reason, right? It's completely remote. Like you said, I mean, you're one pop tire away from not being able to text me while you're out here hunting by yourself, right? And even though your Tacoma, could handle it, and it got scratched up a little bit, but
that's what it's there for.
That's what it's there for. It's a truck, right? But I mean, like you said, I mean, this is not a place you should come up and hunt by yourself. We probably should have hunted, 2 on 1 dog the whole time we were up here.
And with the cover, with the vegetation the way it is right now, I think it works better to have 2 guns on every dog.
Yeah, 100%, because those birds are just kicking out on the side that, you're always set up and you think you got it set up, and then they just take and kick out the backside of an island or kick out another way. And you're like, oh, if I would have had someone, they would have had a shot, right?
The bird gets a vote. And if somebody can crack the code on taking the vote away from the bird, I want to learn that skill.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you'll ever be able to take it away, because
probably not.
Just when you think you got them figured out, right? Then they'll be in a wide open clearing when you're, there's no reason they should be in a wide open clearing. And then there's times where they're in a tag alder thicket, and you're like, what? Why are you here, right? And unless you can actually harvest that bird and see the crop or understand the time of the year or whatever's going on, I mean, you're not going to be able to crack that code. And if anybody that really tries to act like they do, I mean, I'd really like to pick their brain, because they're an interesting bird, man. And you just never know what's going on. I mean, think about the stuff that we found in crops this week, man.
It was pretty consistent until it wasn't.
Yeah.
Right? So maple seeds, maple leaves, right? A lot of that. And then Acorns.
Lots of acorns, man. I've been up here hunting pretty consistently on grouse for 6 years, right? And then that's me in my young adult life hunting them, right? And then coming up, obviously, my grandfather's from here. We would come up for deer camp. We'd hunt grouse, before deer camp and stuff. I don't think I've ever pulled as many acorns out of crops as I did this week. And I think it was kind of a couple things. I think one, it was so hot. I mean, it was like hunting out west, hunting sharptails first week of season hot up here, right?
Yeah.
Never seen that the last week of September ever. So I think what was kind of happening, and me and you, I mean, the game plan was remote water sources, right? It's been so dry up here. We haven't had a legit rain in 2 months, like a legit where we got soaked rain in about 2 months. And you can see, I mean, all these little tributaries and streams and creeks that like some of my honey holes where I love to go hunt grouse, there's no water there.
No
water means no grouse. So we had to go to established bodies of water, right? And what is up around those established bodies of water is usually hardwood forests, So those birds, while there may be aspen off on certain sides of those, certain sides of those bodies of water, they were using the hardwoods as food sources. And I also think to get out of the heat a little bit and be in the shade. And I think that's why we saw as many birds as we did with hardwood food sources in the crops.
Yep, absolutely. And the covers that we were looking for, I think, pretty consistently over the course of the week. Of course, aspen is always the theme this time of year, especially. But aspen mixed with maples and other hardwoods was huge. Conifers sprinkled in there because it was so hot and so sunny. I think, the birds just really wanted that shade. And if you could find all of that near water, you're in the birds.
Yeah, and that was the thing. It's another thing right now with all the leaves being up trying to hit them and that stuff. But I mean, when we found those three things, I mean, we found birds. I mean, we put up 30 plus birds that first day with me and you together. And then I've put up 30, 25, 27. And then today, we had a tougher day today because of the wind, right? But we still had 22 contacts, I think. So, but really targeting that stuff. Today was the first day and it was cooler, right? It was cooler today. Mm-hmm. It didn't get over 60. And I took the same approach that we had the previous days. Find a remote body of water, find those three things. We had a hard time finding birds in the beginning of the day. And I had to shift it up to where we went and we found, water sources, but we went to, because it was more windy. And I think that the birds wanted to take and be out of the wind a little bit more. So we started hunting draws, right? Where the wind wasn't coming down to the draws. So we found our birds in tag all there today off of hardwoods and water. This is where we found a lot of our birds today. But I think that was because they were trying to get out of the wind.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah, I struggled figuring, I found plenty of birds today, but I haven't figured out what the trend was with the birds. I targeted the same covers that I've targeted, yesterday and the day before. Not the same covers, but the same type of cover. Yeah. I wasn't finding birds right on the water like I was the other days, but I was still finding as many birds. They were just a little bit drier.
Yeah.
But they were still wild flushing at 80 yards. So it didn't help that much.
I mean, we talked about that, right? I mean, I normally never run bells on my dogs. The only time I run bells on my dogs is when I'm with inexperienced clients, right? So because, the dog isn't I love my dogs. They're part of my family and I would do anything for my dogs, but they are an investment, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to protect them at any cost. And I am a firm believer, one, that the bells do alert the birds. I mean, they're nostalgic. They're beautiful. And everybody loves hearing that bell just stop, right? They love hearing that, just that abrupt stop. And there's just something nostalgic about it. But at the same time, those birds can hear that bell.
Oh, yeah.
And those Boone and Crockett grouse, right? Those Boone and Crockett grouse, those 15-inch tail fan birds that look like small turkeys. They hear that bell, and those are the ones that are flushing at 80 yards away because they know the game at that point.
They didn't live that long by being stupid.
Oh, no, man. I don't think I've ever seen, a mature 2-3-year-old grouse that you drop a dog in a cover with a bell and they're going to be in that cover in 15 minutes. It's just not going to happen. They're going to kick out of there. So you'll get young birds. You'll get young birds. I mean, and we did get young birds, especially with our dogs. But I mean, those true grouse, like those, I call them Boone and Crockett, right? 15-inch tail fans, you know, seen a couple of them in my day. I mean, those birds, if you really want to pursue an old drummer and really give yourself one of those hunts where, you know, you might only be pursuing this one bird for a while and rework them a couple times, but you want to get yourself a chance at that and pull those bells off and see how your bird contacts change.
You know, I mentioned before that I did take the bells off today, and I didn't realize how much I rely on that bell.
Oh, yeah. 100%. I mean, like I said, I mean, you're listening for that ka-clunk, 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 right? Especially in thick cover. And my favorite thing, I mean, once again, being reliant on technology, right? My favorite thing is when my Garmin vibrates and goes off that my dog's on point, right? And while you can have that bell on, right? And it's better for your dogs that work a little bit closer. Like Gordy does work closer. I mean, he's a 50, 60-yard dog. I don't know if I'll ever have to run a Garmin on that dog. You know what I'm saying? I mean, sure. He's my buddy. He listens to me. I tell him to do something. He does it. And he doesn't get out and run super big. That's a dog where I can have a big bell on him and I'm going to know where he's at all the time. A dog like Bear is going to go out 140 yards and find you birds. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And that's where a dog like him, I describe him as a Marine, right? Because you hand him a crayon and he's going to go conquer an empire, right? That's the kind of dog he is, right? He's going to go out and be stealthy and get in there. That's a dog that I don't necessarily want a bell on because he's going to go 130 yards out and I'm going to make sure that I want him to hold those birds until I get there.
And you can't hear the bell very well at 130 yards. Anyway.
You can't hear it at all, man.
Yeah.
You know, so seeing, you know, so it's just kind of, you know, the bells work for certain people. They don't work for other people. But I mean, it's a noticeable difference when you take one off and improving your contacts. But then we also run into thing of, are bells a wolf deterrent or not? You know,
or are they a wolf attractant?
Or are they ringing the dinner bell?
Right.
We don't know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I mean, in terms of bird contacts, every time, I mean, when I'm hunting for myself, my dogs are not wearing bells. So, and it's just, if it's my personal preference, and I do believe that you do get better bird contacts and better bird work because of it. So.
No, I believe that. That's really interesting. You know, the other thing for me is I do like the nostalgic sound of the bell until there are two of them.
Yeah.
And then that's all bets are off. Like one of the bells has got to go, or both, either.
Yeah, I mean, I think I took in tinnitus from it, right? I went to sleep last night and I had a dream, and all it was dog bells, just to clink, ka-clink, 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 ka-clink the whole time. And I woke up and I was like, oh my God, I'm not running bells on my dogs tomorrow. It's not happening.
I think that'd be a really cool dream to have in like late spring, early summer when you're thinking about bird hunting, but you can't do it. But this time of year, I'm thinking not so much.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think right now, you know, when you're out there every day, I'm out there every day right now, right? I want to come home and I close my eyes and I see aspen, man. I just see yellow leaves all the time, right? And I love the dogs. I really do, man. But those bells, man, it can definitely get to you.
Yeah. Some people, it seems like they love them or they hate them. But I don't know about you, man. I'm exhausted. I'm thinking about getting a hot shower and getting in the bed.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, I've been dreaming about one since, oh gosh, what is it, 10:30 right now? I've been thinking about one since like 5. But you know how it goes. You got to feed dogs. You got to get everybody checked over, combed out, the whole 9 yards. I mean, getting those Gordons with the hair, man. I mean, you got to comb it all out, right? So
takes an extra minute with them. So
yeah,
tell us what you want people to know about Superior Upland, and then let's wrap it up, man.
The one thing that I really want to take and let you guys know about Superior Upland is that we're not judgmental. We're trying to be that voice of reason going forward with bird hunting, especially the grouse hunting in the Upper Peninsula. And we really want to take in, we don't care if you've got I told you, we don't care if you got a half Brittany, half Shepherd mutt, right? If you want to learn how to grouse hunt and you want to take in be a part of a community and galvanize and take and move this sport forward so we can take and protect it for the future. That's kind of what we're trying to do in our area and build that up. If you're interested in taking and coming on up and having your dog get on Grouse Contacts, we run an excellent summer conditioning program. Got the kennel, got everything, got the whole 9 yards. We really care about the dogs and, more importantly, the people that own those dogs, right? So moving forward, just kind of trying to establish things, get things set up so we can take and move forward with our mission statement of doing that for the area that we're in. And I'm just happy that I had to have a great friend like you up for a while, man, and get on some birds. And
dude, I was so excited to come up here, and you can't replicate grouse, ruffed grouse, anywhere else, right? Certainly not anywhere that I've hunted. So I will definitely be back. Maybe not this year, although I'm trying to decide, do I really need to do my other trip, or should I just come back up here?
Well, I mean, you should come up when the leaves are down, man, because that's when you can get some truly, truly special hunts, man. The leaves get down, and I think, me, my door's open anytime for you, man. I mean, we had you all set up in the basement. You're all set up, man. But yeah, no,
pretty good digs,
dude. My door's open anytime for you, man. I can't wait to see you back and share this place I love so much with you.
I really appreciate that. Having the leaves down, I think, might help, but it also takes away some excuses too. So maybe not.
It's always a lot funner to give people crap about their shooting when the leaves are up. So
yeah, I hear you, but it's rough. But hey, Jake, thanks so much for having me up here, man. It really was a blessing.
No problem, man. Like I said, anytime. And I'm just so happy that, was able to share the place I love with you.
I hope you enjoyed episode number 38 of the Whoa Post podcast. And if you did, remember to leave a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. Go ahead and check us out on Facebook or Instagram, like and follow at the Whoa Post, and also check out our Patreon community at patreon.com/whoapost. And you can contact me for any reason at bill@thewhoapost.com. Stay steady and God bless.